Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron Kaplan, and I am the founder and co-CEO of Prometheum. Today, we're going to be demonstrating Prometheum's brokerage systems, our trading systems, a little bit of our post-trade solution software, basically the major components to our blockchain securities-enabled ecosystem. We're very excited for this, and today I'm going to actually hand it off to our Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Product, Alex Shapiro, who will be taking us through the demo. So Alex, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Aaron. Hi, everyone. Very shortly, I'm going to switch off my video, and I'm going to start with the trading system, and then we'll continue to the management systems, then the blockchain viewer, and then we'll finish off with our clearing system. Thank you. Okay, so this is the homepage to the trading front end. A couple of things to point out here is there's a market summary here. This shows the current summary of the market data related to the market. So right now, the most active token is MBR, which is actually our token, Ember. It'll show a price, a percentage if there's been trading. As you know, we're in beta, so there's no actual real trading right now. Total trading volume and the total trading value, obviously the last price here. And then towards the bottom, you have the system status, and whether everything's operating correctly in terms of the website, the WebSockets, the trading engine, the API, and the fixed API. Down here, you'll notice a help tab. That is a FAQ as well as live help. This can be accessed at any point in time, and you'll see this tab appear on the bottom when we switch to the actual trading page. Up on top here, the Get Started tab. This is how a new customer who wants to open a Prometheum account would do so. So they would just simply click here. And this is our trading front end. One really important thing to note is that the way we built the system is it's based on an equity system. So it's not like a currency system where you have pairs. This is a lot easier, and it's meant to be very easy for retail people, especially in the US that are used to trading stocks, to be able to get familiar with this system as well. Quick things, there's summary on top. So this is kind of a summary bar. You've got your current session profit or loss. You've got your available cash here. You've got your summary portfolio. You actually have a full portfolio here under positions. This is a simple summary. It just tells you which tokens you're holding and the total value of those positions. And you can just click the arrows, very easy to scroll. Couple of other things to point out. Under User Center, you can go ahead and access the API. The API allows people to send automated orders to look at market data. Prior to getting an API account, you have to complete an API questionnaire, which can be found here. The questionnaire basically makes sure that the people that are applying for an API account have experience trading automated. If you click agree, it then asks you to answer some pretty detailed questions. We want to make sure that the people that are going to be using the API actually know what they're doing and have experience using an API. Under need help, this is the general Prometheum Zendesk page. Takes a little bit of time to load. You can search for any questions you may have. You can get live help here. You could look at recent activity, and you could look at recent announcements related to Prometheum. If there's any issues, anything like that, it would be here. You could submit requests. So pretty interactive. So let's go ahead and go back to the trade page. So again, this is the trade page. One thing to note is that everything that we've built is built from the perspective of making sure we have a system that a retail investor is comfortable with, but at the same time, we also have hidden features that allow an active trader or a more professional trader to basically access deeper market data and to even, let's say, change the color scheme. So for instance, active traders prefer to trade on a darker screen, which can be done really easily by clicking this little moon here, and then the whole system changes into dark mode. and then you just click back if you want to go into light mode. So I'm going to do a couple of trades and just show you how everything interacts. I'm going to stick with MBR. These fields are actually interactive, so I can go ahead and type, let's say, Ember, and then I'll pull up all the different tokens that have an E in them. I could type in the actual symbol, MBR, and then I can click that, and there I go. Right here is the level 1. So this currently shows the top of the market. So there's 100 tokens that someone wants to buy at 1004. Actually, it's me. And there's 299 tokens that someone wants to sell at 1005, me as well. For the active trader, they can click this little arrow here and actually pull down and see the full level 2 or the full depth of book. So right now we're showing a pretty tight spread between 1004 and 1005. We've got different price levels with different token amounts. Down here, you have your order management as well as your execution management system. So you've got your pending orders, which are all of my current pending orders, and they appear here. All the information related to that order appears here as well. So you have your token symbol, your side, whether it's a buy or a sell, the type of order, so they're all limit orders, the token amount, the display amount. We actually allow people to display different amounts. So for instance, if someone wants to send a very large order, but they don't want to scare the market, they're able to send the order showing, for instance, only 10 tokens, where behind it there may be 100. And they could even choose to show 0. So in other words, that won't even show up on the level 2, but in fact it is there. And that's what's known as a hidden order. Sometimes people call them iceberg orders. We also support stop orders. Simply right here, you'll find the time entered and the order ID. Every order is, the system generates an order ID. Every fill generates an execution ID. The system operates very similar to the way NASDAQ and the NYC electronic systems operate. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to cancel an order, and then I'm going to go ahead and add an order. So for instance, let's say I want to cancel this order for 250 tokens at 1002. I simply find it here. It's right there. I click cancel, and you'll see it disappeared from here and from here as well. If I click cancel all these orders will disappear. If we enter an order, let's say I want to buy, I don't know, 50 tokens, and I want to buy at a price of $9.99. I just simply click buy. It'll ask me to confirm some details. Limit 50, $9.99. I click confirm. Order sent successfully, and you'll see the order show up right there. And now that order has also appeared on the pending, on the bottom under pending. Later, I'm going to show you guys the Blockchain Explorer, which is actually going to show an executed order that we're going to do in the next minute. And we'll go back and I'll show you guys that executed order, and you'll be able to see how that shows up on the blockchain within a hash. So let's go ahead and do a market order. Let's say, so it's very simple. You just switch to market. Obviously, market order doesn't require a price. I just have to say how many tokens I want to buy. So let's say I want to buy 25 tokens. Here I can choose with the time and force. So this one's going to be, I want to have this order executed immediately, and if I can't, then it has to cancel. There's a summary of the fee and the total cost of this order, and this is estimated by the system looking at the level 2 and seeing that the current best offer is at 1005. So I can click enter buy order. I have to confirm these details. I click confirm. It'll say order sent successfully. You can now see that my current session profit or loss has changed. I can go to executed, and you can see that I crossed 25. I'm both the buy and the sell in this order because the original limit order was mine. It'll tell me the fee that I paid. It shows that I removed liquidity on the sell side and I added liquidity on the buy side. This is an estimate of the realized profit or loss that I've generated, the time executed, the order ID, and the trade ID. This order has also shown up here. So on the right, this is our time and sales. So this is just a summary of all the executions that are happening on the ATS. So this is the order that just took place at a price of 1005 at 2012-15 time. You'll notice here that when the market session closes, you get a little line here that tells you what time the session is closed. One other thing to note is we have the official time, and right now it's showing New York time here. The market status is open, so you have a green little circle. If the market was closed, this would be red and it would say closed. The available cash has decreased slightly because I've used some. And the only other thing that I'd like to point out is that my position has changed. So these are actually all of my positions here. And this gives me sort of a more in-depth idea of what my positions are. So these are the symbols. These are the amounts that I'm holding, the average price, the last price that it was traded at, and the total value, and the estimated profit or loss. All these columns can be sorted. The ones that are letters can be sorted alphabetically. The amounts can be sorted. So pretty much everything is sortable. And same goes for pretty much every field in every single one of these windows. Executed, positions, canceled, even rejections. Everything can be sorted. And while we're here, let me just explain this really quickly. This window just shows orders that are rejected. Usually that has to do with risk management. So the ATS is constantly monitoring to make sure that people are not trading beyond the cash that they have. They're not trading beyond the number of tokens that they're allowed to enter based on the risk management program that I'm going to show you later. So that's all found here in terms of the rejections. Let me just go back to pending. Let me minimize this and go back to just showing the top of the book. And I want to take you guys through the chart that we built. So on top of the chart, it tells you the symbol, the last price, the percent change, the opening price, the closing price, the low and the high of the day. The chart is fully customizable, and you could change the time period. So right now it's at 2 hours. I could change that to 1 minute, and that'll show that execution that took place as well as the volume. And I can go out all the way to only having each candle represent a single week, and it goes all the way back to April. Let's go back to 1 hour. The price is shown here, and time as well as volume is shown on the bottom. When I say this is fully customizable, customers actually able to remove all this as well as add things. So for instance, a retail investor may not want to see a lot of this because it's just a little bit too busy and confusing. So there's certain things that can be removed, like the volume, for instance. You can also go into settings and you can change colors, background. You can show like what the right and left axis is showing. So I could remove that. And so now there's no right axis. I could bring it back. I could do margin, I could do percentage, I can control the backgrounds. So, I mean, there's really no limit to how customizable this is. This is very interesting here. This is all the indicators that we built in. So we have a lot of different indicators for people who, let's say, do technical analysis. So for instance, click on Bollinger Bands, and you can see that all of a sudden there's some Bollinger Bands. I can go ahead and even add directional movement. So again, fully customizable and adapted to both active traders as well as retail investors. That pretty much is it. There's some other things we can get into, but I think we don't have a whole lot of time. So I'm going to go ahead and now move on to the administrative part of the front end. In the meantime,
Alex, before we move on to the administrative part, why don't we show the executed trade written to the blockchain and Blockchain Explorer?
yeah, okay. Switch here real quick. So this is our current Prometheum Blockchain Explorer. This one is in fact connected to the ATS and to the blockchain. So if these are the transactions the last couple of days. If we look at the last block, it should be for 25 tokens of MBR that took place today. This is the ID number. So this is the actual block. And this is the hash and some other information here. Obviously, the gas and things like that, all that for now is not relevant. And then there's also a receipt here on the bottom. Aaron, anything else you want to get into on the Prometheum blockchain before I switch to the admin?
No, I just think it's important to note that it's that as trades are executed, they're written in real time, and it's important because that's where the reconciliation against the settlement transactions at the clearing firm will occur. So one thing that also is important to consider here is that in general, I think people are very used to virtual currency exchanges, and what Alex is going to go into now is really going to show what distinguishes us in that the equities market infrastructure really has the inherent risk management and other systems in order to really have a market with integrity that can be used by the masses, which will really allow the digital assets to transition from what's historically been a sort of a gray, potentially troubled market to really a mainstream asset class. Go ahead, Alex.
All right, I'm going to switch back to the trading platform. There's one other thing that I wanted to show everyone, which is this normal mode and active mode. So this is yet another feature that we built into the system for both retail traders and active traders. So normally most retail traders are used to seeing a confirmation. So again, if I want to send, let's say, a limit order, let's just leave it the way it is, and I click enter buy order, it's going to have this confirmation box. And so before that order actually goes out to the market, I have to click confirm, right? And then it says order sent successfully. Now, what I can do is, as an active trader, I could switch into active mode. I have to confirm that I've read this. I check the box. I understand that there will no longer be confirmations. I click confirm. And now we are in active mode. And the difference is that when I click enter buy order, that order goes out immediately and there is no confirmation box. So just another example of something that we've built into the system to make sure that for active traders who want to trade really, really fast, they can do that. And in the next phase, we're actually in the middle of building, we're also going to have keyboard shortcuts. So traders are going to be able to trade just by using the keyboard without using the mouse. And most of the features are integrated into keyboard shortcuts, including changing tokens, including changing the type of order you're sending, stop orders, the side of the order, and pretty much everything else, and canceling orders as well. That pretty much rounds out what I wanted to show everyone related to the front end. And then just for show, I'm going to go ahead and cancel everything. And I'm going to confirm. And that's it. All right, let's go on to the ATS admin. Let me just go ahead and log in. So the ATS admin is a administrative tool that's used to manage the ATS. So this is an application that would sit in front of the chief compliance officer, as well as in front of people that work at the ATS that may be below the chief compliance officer, customer service, and every person, depending on their level of within like the regulatory environment, has entitlements to different features. So right now I'm using a super admin, so this gives me access to every single feature. But if I was, for instance, just a customer service rep, I would only have read only. So I would be able to see certain things about the brokers that are connected to the admin, but I wouldn't actually be able to make any changes. So this is the dashboard, just very, very, very high level summary. It just shows the market trading summary, number of logins, number of orders, and the number of trades. So let's get started by going to participant management. So under participant management, we have first a broker ID list and then an MPID list. The broker ID list is actually broker dealers that are connected to the ATS. So every broker dealer that connects to the ATS has to submit a form, enter all their information, and then they're giving details to like their broker ID. Now each broker ID can then have what's called a market broker participant identification. So what that is it's the actual way that the broker is connecting to the gateway of the ATS. So for instance, we have some broker IDs here. These are all, just test broker IDs. It gives you the broker name. You can click on this to see if they're linked to anyone. This one is not, but this one, for instance, which is active, we click here, and you can see that this broker ID is linked to these two MBIDs. MBIDs act totally independently of each other. This is how the ATS sees that broker. It sees it as an MBID. and all the risk management, all the tools related to managing the broker are actually on the MBID level. And the reason why that's important is because broker dealers may have different types of clients. They may have, let's say, a hedge fund, and they may also have retail traders, and they may want to keep them separately. So they can create different MBIDs depending on the type of business that those MBIDs are used to support. So let's just quickly go through some things here. Operation, this allows us to modify the information related to the underlying broker. So as you can see, its name, the position of the person filling out the form, the person's contact ID, address, type of organization, the FINRA CRD number and the SEC ID number, which are really, really important, the compliance officer information, billing information, technical contact, emergency management, technical contact purpose for this MBID, and initial buying power and max loss settings. You can also do status management. So status management allows you to take a broker and put them in active mode. Anytime a broker is created, the default setting is inactive, so there's nothing that happens by accident, and only a chief compliance officer can actually go into the system and change the status to active.
Alex, let me just explain something. So all the systems here are meant to allow third-party broker dealers to tie directly into the ATS. Third-party broker dealers have to have the ability to manage their customers, and we have to have the ability to manage the third-party broker dealers. And that is really our strategy in terms of growth by allowing our ATS to grow. So obviously, it's really important that all these systems are in place. Go ahead, Alex.
Thanks, Aaron. As we expand and as there's a lot of different brokers, the top of the page allows you to actually search for broker ID that you're looking for. You could do it either by broker ID, actual ID, you could do it by the name, you could do it by the create time. When you click search, you'll get all the results. Obviously, everything is sortable. You can export the details, and you could even create new brokers here. Only a chief compliance officer would have access to create new brokers, or potentially principal officers of the ATS that are registered the correct way would be able to do that as well. Switching over to the MBID list, very similar to the broker ID, but these are the actual MBIDs. This has a little bit more information. So this gives the initial buying power of that MBID, as well as the buying power that's being used, what the session is for that volume, the last login, the login status, whether they're logged in, last time that the information was updated, whether it's live, obviously the name of the MBID. On top, you can search as well, just like in the broker ID, and you could also do some operations here. So again, you could actually modify the MBIDs here. So some basic information, just like we had previously, as well as entering the initial max loss, as well as the buying power information. So this is sort of the most high level risk management. So this controls how big of an order or group of orders can this broker dealer have at any given time, as well as like what is the potential maximum loss that this broker, actually this MBID, can have before all its orders are blocked. So let me just go ahead and cancel that. And that's pretty much it. The only other thing is the status management. So this is similar to what you saw before for the broker, but this is a little bit more in depth. This allows us to suspend a MBID. It allows us to freeze an MBID and to block an MBID. So suspending an MBID, what that means, it's not the highest level way of stopping an MBID for whatever reason. This may be if let's say a broker's MBID is acting strange, sending too many orders, or possibly we feel like there may have been some malicious orders sent to the market. We can suspend that MBID and do an investigation or figure out what's going on. When you suspend an MBID, the only thing that happens is that MBID is not allowed to send new orders, but they are allowed to close their existing positions. If you freeze an account, it stops the MBID from sending new orders. It also does not allow them to close any of their positions. Freezing an MBID is pretty serious. Blocked means that the MBID is blocked completely, and they have no access to the system whatsoever. Okay, let's move on to token management. So the token management, so this section of the ATS admin, this is where the ATS actually manages the tokens that are listed on the ATS. So right now we have these tokens that are listed. And this is actually where you create new tokens as well. So for instance, if a company does an issuance on our platform, and then they want to give people the ability to trade their tokens, they would submit an application. Um, Someone at a high level at the ATS would then go ahead and click create. They would put in the company name, the token ID, the token name. They can put an icon of the picture of, that could be a picture of the company logo or whatever they want to use. And then they can set some high level things related to how that token is going to trade. So things like what's the absolute max trading shares that any MBID in the whole marketplace can enter at any given time? What's the minimum? So normally this is set to 1. What's the issuing price? And you can also set up fees here. So we give people the ability to set up lots of different fees. So we could do per token fees, per trade fees. We could do percentage per trade. We can also change the liquidity model here. Our ATS is going to operate on a maker-taker model, meaning that people that add liquidity, they're going to be given some sort of a credit, or they're not going to be charged any fees, while people that take liquidity from the market are going to be charged potentially a small fee. We allow up to 4 different fees to be incorporated into any transaction. So for instance, if we want to have a trading fee, as well as a liquidity fee, as well as a settlement fee, as well as some sort of a regulatory fee, we can do that, and we can set it up however we want in terms of per token, fixed percentage, and things like that. So this really gives us pretty much all the flexibility that any of the large exchanges give to any of their underlying brokers. In terms of the information that you see, very, very straightforward. It's the company name, the token ID, so that's the actual symbol, the token name, the issuing price, that's just this price that the token initially started trading at. Whether that token is listed, this is the global universal max trading shares, minimum shares, trading fee, when the token was created, as well as last update. The only other thing to show here is you could do a search here. So when we have hopefully thousands of tokens trading, you're going to be able to search for them here, either by name, by ID, or by the listing status. And then you can also clear that search. And lastly, the operation. So this is the first of a 2-part process. If we want to, let's say, stop a token from trading at any given time or halt the token, so we can do pause here. So pause would allow us to actually halt trading in a specific token for whatever reason, and we could also retire a token here. When a token is first created, its default is that it is actually paused, and then a chief compliance officer has to go into the system and click list, and that will actually make that token live, and it'll open up the order book for orders from MBIDs. Trading market management. So this is how we actually manage these sessions, so the underlying sessions related to the market. So let's just start here. So these are currently all the token IDs, the token names, and the trading status. This is the second part of what I described. So by selecting a token, we can actually click break and stop trading. This can only happen after we have put the token into pause. So it's a 2-step process because we don't want anybody to accidentally, halt trading in a token, which is obviously a pretty serious thing. Trading session management. This is where we actually create the sessions for the ATS. So our current model initially is to have 2 sessions, each 11.5 hours long, with a 30-minute break in between for settlement. And this is where we would set it up here. You click modify, and you basically create sessions. You can remove or add sessions, set the time. You can also set which days of the week you'd like the ATS to trade. So we can do every day. We can only do Monday through Friday, or however the ATS sees fit. And of course, we can add holidays. So obviously there are trading holidays, or maybe there won't be. It's pretty much up to the ATS. And they can do that here simply by clicking add, putting in a date, putting in a comment, clicking confirm, and that will make that specific date a date when there are no sessions. Emergency functionality is really, really, really important. So emergency functionality is sort of worst case scenario risk management to protect the ATS. This can be done on a whole market scale, or it can actually be done per MBID or per group of MBIDs. And so you would simply put in an MBID here, you would get the name of the MBID, or you can click whole market, and then the operations. So you have the ability to cancel all orders related to either the whole market or the MBID or group of MBIDs. You can block new positions. You can allow new positions, obviously, in case you've blocked new positions. And then we have 911 mode. 911 mode will cancel all open orders. It will block all new positions from everyone in the ATS. And if need be, and this is depending on a very advanced feature that we have on the back end, it can try to match as many orders as possible in case we're just completely in shutdown mode because something catastrophic has happened. I hope to never use this. Let's move on to order management. So the order management section allows you to see all open orders that are currently in the ATS during that session. And you can search based on any of these parameters. This is really important for ATS personnel, for the chief compliance officer, for principals if they're investigating an account, or they need to submit a report to FINRA related to trading in a certain symbol. So you can search by the type of the order, so limit, market, or stop. You can see here, you could search by order status, whether it was partially executed or not executed. You could search by whether the order came from a broker dealer or the ATS itself. You could put an order ID number, you could put in MBIDs, broker IDs, the name of the instrument, the side, whether it was a buy or sell or everything, the type of product. Right now, obviously, we're only supporting equities-based products, and the time of the order. You can search, and then you can even export everything to a CSV file if you want to do further research. Just going to do limit order. This may currently not be connected to the database because we are in beta. So it looks like that's not. And then you can have order status here. So this only shows actual open orders. So these are live orders that are limit orders for the most part, and they're waiting in the market to be executed. Order history. So this actually goes back and shows all the historical orders. So sorry, one thing to note, going back for 1 second. The reason why nothing came up here is because I canceled all the orders. If I would have kept some, this would have showed up. Aaron, should I go back? Do we have time? Should I throw up some limit orders and pull it up, or is that not really super relevant?
It's okay, Alex. Let's keep it moving.
Okay, great. So order history. So these are orders that already took place. These were orders that were entered previously and canceled. So actually, you could see that the orders that I was entering before, I was coming in under this broker ID and this MBID. I don't know if you guys remember, but the limit price was set to 999. And that's all the information related to that order that I had in the market previously. And again, this is the same type of thing where everything is fully searchable. You can export it in case we need to submit some sort of a report or we need to do a daily summary. Yeah, everything is searchable. Some of the fields are actually sortable. So we could sort by the limit price. We could sort by the order IDs. In the future, every single field is going to be sortable. Reject order queries. This just shows all the rejected orders depending on the time of the sessions. Everything is the same here. You could search by different parameters. You get a lot of details about pretty much all the details related to any rejection that's here, including the displayed amount, the time condition, the session, volume, display price, side, instrument name, pretty much everything. And then we have the manual order entry screen. Manual order entry allows the ATS to enter orders on behalf of MBIDs. So you'd simply put an MBID here from the list of existing ones, and then you could select which token. And this acts a lot like the order entry window in the actual front end. But this is really important in case, let's say, a broker dealer goes offline or they have some kind of an issue and they call the ATS and they say, look, please, I need you guys to enter an order for me. We can do that here. And we could also look at all of their outstanding orders and cancel any orders that they want to cancel in case they don't have access to the system. So this is really, really, really important to make sure that in case anything happens on the broker-dealer side, in a worst-case scenario, the ATS has access to be able to help them with these type of issues. Moving on to the risk management section. This is actually a really, really, really important section for the regulators. So as an ATS, we need to have extremely high risk management. We need to be able to protect the integrity of the market, which means that we need to make sure there's no malicious trading. We need to make sure that people are not insider trading or taking advantage of the market. And we also need to make sure that we help people stop sort of themselves from putting in an order accidentally. So commonly knows that, let's say, a fat finger where they accidentally enter too many shares, or they want to use too much capital. So let's go to the risk control preferences. So these are the pre-trade risk control preferences, and you can see it's actually really, really extensive here. So I'm going to take you guys through it very, very, very quickly. One thing to note is that this can be applicable to all MBIDs, or you can actually go one by one and like change the risk settings on an MBID by MBID level. And so some of the things that we can do is we can control the maximum orders that an MBID is sending per second. And obviously click modify, you enter a new value. We can do the max notional value per order. So that's just the maximum value of an order that an MBID is allowed to send. We can do a max token amount per order. So that's the max number of actual tokens in the order. We can control how many open orders an MBID has at any given time. We can control the max notional position per token. So for instance, like, let's say people are trading in lots of different tokens, we can control that on a per token basis. We also split the buying power up into different levels. So we have a total buying power, which is the limit of what is the total like notional value of all the positions that an MBID can get into. We can also limit just the pending orders. So that's just, so what's the limit on the value of all the current pending orders? So these aren't positions, these are pending orders. And then we can actually do the max loss, which is what's the maximum loss that MBID can have before they're blocked from entering new orders. And in that case, by the way, they would still have the ability to close existing orders. They just wouldn't be able to get into new ones. And this buying power. This buying power is very important because it combines both the positional buying power as well as the pending buying power. Self-trade ratio. This is the maximum ratio between fills to cancels. And this is related to basically if, let's say, an MBID is accidentally crossing themselves, they may do it accidentally, they may do it on purpose. This controls like what percentage is okay for an MBID to cross itself on. And obviously that happens because broker dealers have underlying clients which may be trading completely independently of each other. And so there may be instances when they cross each other. We want to make sure we keep that below a certain percentage because right now it's set to 5%. We can make that 20%. But if it goes to too high of a number, it may be a sign that a broker is trying to manipulate the market by giving the participants a sense that a symbol is trading more than it actually should be. Percentage of total session. This controls the max percentage that any MBID can actually be responsible for trades in the market. So this is kind of related to, we don't want an MBID to like corner the market and be responsible for too much of the trading on any given token. These here are post-trade. So these don't actually necessarily immediately elicit a response. These actually trigger alerts. So anytime an MBID goes above any of these, we'll get a special alert and it'll basically notify some kind of a regulatory personnel on the ATS side to take a look at what that account is doing and basically to investigate further. Percentage of total session volume, percent increase in trades. So this is related to a running average session number of trades that we keep for MBIDs. And so if we notice that during a session, it seems like an MBID is doing a lot more trading than they normally do, this is a way for us to get alerted to that fact, because that may in fact signal that something potentially bad is going on.
Alex, can you go into a little bit why it's important to have all these risk control processes and basically the ability to manage?
Absolutely. It's actually, it's not just important, it's required. I think we've gone above and beyond because Obviously, we're creating a new marketplace, and our goal is to make sure that the retail investors and the people that are currently trading equities and stocks, we want them to know that the integrity of our market is as protected, is not, if not even more protected than the markets they're used to trading, like Nasdaq. But most of this is required by law. So the SEC and FINRA requires that you are able to limit buying power and max loss and the number of shares and the size of the positions. Most of this is required. Anyone who doesn't have all this in place will never be allowed to go live with any kind of market in the US. It doesn't matter what type of security you're trading.
Which is also why we feel we're uniquely situated and will be the first approved by the SEC and FINRA to trade digital assets publicly in the United States.
I'm going to move on to the pre-trade risk log. So the pre-trade risk log, there hasn't been any pre-trade risks that have triggered. But the way this works is not only do the pre-trade risk settings actually block people from doing something above the risk parameter, but every time that one of these pre-trade risk parameters is triggered, we get an alert here. And the reason for that is because, for instance, it's possible that someone is continuously trying to do something that they shouldn't be doing. And so we'll see that here, and then we can kind of investigate further, and we can make a note of like when this happened, and it gives us all the information related to that event. So to give us an event ID, the MBID that is actually doing this, the token, the event name, the event type. So this will specify specifically which pre-trade parameter was triggered. The level. Level is a very interesting feature that we've built into the system, which is depending on how often someone is attempting to do something, the level actually goes higher and higher. So for instance, if it's one time, it'll be 1, 2 times 2, and so on. But if this number gets high, it lets the compliance people at the ATS know that, wait a minute, you know what, we need to take a look at this and see what's going on. And again, you'll get a reason code, the time, and the session. All of this is fully searchable by session, by type, in terms of like the type of pre-trade risk that was triggered, the token, the MBID, and the level of severity, sorry. And obviously as long as the date. And you could search, you can clear, and this little tab actually auto sorts the columns so that nothing gets lost. So you can, for instance, like sort the session, click auto, and then it'll only show you things from that session. That's very important when you have lots and lots of orders going on in an ATS, and you don't want to do a search, then have the data kind of populate, and then not see all the new stuff that's taking place. So by using the sorting and the auto sorting, you can control how that information is presented. Surveillance risk. So this is, and it's good that we have two examples here. So surveillance risk is similar to the pre-trade risk, except this is related to the post-trade risk parameters. So post-trade risk parameters. So for instance, a wash transactions. When someone actually trades with themselves, so when an MBID trades with itself, like what I did earlier, about 30 minutes ago when I cross my own order to show you guys an execution. That will show up here. I believe these are actually from today. I'm pretty sure they are. And so this is an alert, and it shows all the different alerts that are being triggered. So anytime any event takes place, it populates this field. And again, everything is fully searchable. You can reset the search. And this is actually the current search that we're looking at. It gives you a little summary of what search we're running right now. And just some basic information, gives you the reason code, the session that this took place in, the time, the level, it's 2 because there's 2 of them now, the status, pending, and what's really cool is you can do an operation which allows you to actually create like a memo related to this so you can investigate further. So it gives you automatically the log details, and then a compliance person can actually set the status. So for instance, like, I don't know what's going on, I'm not sure if this is malicious, I could click pending, and then I could write a memo, investigate further, and then this gets saved. Or I could click, malicious, save that as well, and then we need to report that to FINRA. Again, all of this is related to actual rules that exist in the US that no one can get around if you're operating an ATS for any type of security. So this is really, really important. There's a lot here, and it may get boring at times, but the fact is it's very, very important that we've built all this, because without this, you simply can't operate an ATS. And we don't feel that it's even fair to operate an ATS, because people just won't be protected. So now the record is pending. So I could close that now. And lastly, I'm going to go to the STA report. So actually, this is just an example. So the STA report is the next level of the risk logs. So STA stands for suspicious trading activity. So this is where we would actually have all the different reports that are being created. And you can click on report ID and kind of see how this works. So this is obviously a fake report, but I'll show you how the upload works. You click upload, you put in the session date, session number, the MBID, the instrument name, the event type, in terms of like what triggered, the need to create this case report. You can put in some comments, and then you're actually able to upload files. You can upload attachments. So for instance, let's say you have a screenshot of the level 2 at the time of this event. You can upload that, and you can also do a status. So open means that this is still pending investigation. We're still looking into it. Or you could do close, and that means that you have to enter an action. So as you saw, like this red thing came up. So then you could say, reported to FINRA or something like that, and click confirm. Not going to do that. And then that kind of takes into like a whole other area of compliance. Again, everything is searchable. So you could search through lots and lots of different STA reports, depending on session and the report ID and the MBID and instrument name and things like that. That's pretty much it for the risk section. The only other thing is the reason codes. So reason codes is where we just modify the type of message that the MBID and the actual end user receives related to when, let's say, an order is rejected because of the notional value being exceeded, or the token number being exceeded, or anything like that. This is just our management screen where we control the reason code, the event type, and the code description. And we can click modify, and we can change this to make it say whatever we want it to say. These are just, sorry, go back here. All right, I'm gonna have to log in again. Sorry, guys. Apologies, this will take 1 second. So that's it. This just allows us to manage different reason codes. Same goes for, these are post-trade, and same goes for surveillance. Lastly, entitlement management. This is what I spoke about earlier. This is where we can control how we actually create the admin accounts. So these are like the actual admins that can log into the system. And what we can do here is we can actually control what they have access to. So we want to make sure that somebody, for instance, that's a low-level employee that's doing, let's say, just basic reviewing of accounts, we want to make sure that they're not able to, let's say, hold, trading in the market or enter manual orders. So all that is done here. So we can control, all the entitlements related to that. And so this just kind of summarizes that. Super admin, which is what I'm using right now, it's enabled. And this will allow us to create, additional ones, enter passwords, select the role of this person, enter their positions, and pretty much it. And of course, once there's a lot of them, if somebody wants to search for a specific one, you can search by user, by role, and by status. That's about it. That rounds it out. Aaron, any thoughts? Anything you want me to go deeper into?
No, I think that does a pretty good job. Obviously, in the interest of time, we also have the investor sign up, and the post trade solution stuff. I don't know if there's anything you want to show there quickly, Alex, but I think that it's been what, 50 something minutes. If anyone has any questions or would like any other further material or to see those post trade solutions in the sign up and the issuer stuff, just please let us know.
Yeah, Aaron, just two things. And I think this is really important. So there are actually two different admins that we've built. Right now, we've reviewed the ATS admin, which is the admin made to allow the ATS to manage the underlying brokers that are connecting to it. Now, we also have a broker-dealer admin. I'm not going to go through it. It's actually extremely simple and similar to the ATS admin. But what this does is it actually allows the broker-dealer to manage and control the underlying end users. So the actual, retail investor or the active trader or API user, whatever it is, we can do the same things that we can do towards the broker-dealer from the ATS side. We can do the same thing here, except there's a couple of additional features in terms of, sorry about that, guys. There's just a couple of different additional features. So for instance, there's identity verification, which allows us to use a third party to make sure that all the information entered by an end user is correct. And if you click on details, it gives all the details here.
Alex,
Yep.
once you're done with this, why don't you just show post trade stuff pretty quickly so people
Yep,
can...
absolutely. But anyway, so this is literally how accounts are actually created on the broker dealer side. So that's all here. Very similar in terms of risk management. There's an additional section for API management, which allows us to actually create API accounts. The trader ID and the client ID. Again, there's a hierarchy similar to how the broker ID has multiple MBIDs that can be connected to it. Similarly, a client has a client ID, but they can have multiple trader IDs connected to a client ID. I think that's it. I don't think there's any need to go into deeper detail here because it's very, very similar to the ATS admin. Let me jump into the clearing system. I'm going to do a very, very, very fast just summary of the different things we have access to. We're actually right now in the middle of integrating our fixed engine and the blockchain into this clearing system. This is a pretty massive undertaking, but this system itself is actually used by quite a few established clearing firms here in the US. So it's a really, really big deal that we now have a version that we can call our own. And this is a very, very, very in-depth and complicated system. And so I'll just go through different fields here. So PNS, you can do street comparisons, master blotters of everything, of literally all the information in the ATS. Everything gets reported here using Fix, and then we can make changes. So we can look at open items if there's something that like if let's say someone deposited money and it hasn't yet arrived, we can control like how accounts are actually, like when accounts are actually able to go live. We can do summary of all the transactions, all the cancels, fee matrix. It would probably take about 5 hours to even like scratch the surface of everything that's here, because clearing in the US is actually really, really intricate. And the other thing I'd like to point out about this in margin, which we're not going to offer originally, so I'm not going to get into that. But the reason why this is so important is because, again, as an ATS and as a registered entity, we have to think about clearing these securities. And so even though we're clearing them and selling them on the blockchain, we also need to also have traditional methods that we can demonstrate to regulators. And so this is why the system is so important. If you don't have both in today's legal landscape, the regulators will not, approve the ATS. So again, this is one of the things that we have that very, very, very few companies have, which is an actual full clearing system. And this is one of the things that's going to allow us to get approval from FINRA, the SEC, and potentially other regulators, because we're using a system that's established and it's been tested before. The only other thing I wanted to show everyone is well, we've already gone over the Prometheum blockchain. I can give you a sneak peek for about just a minute. This is actually the next version of the Prometheum blockchain. We're testing it right now. This one's much faster. It's also designed in a better way. So this is being tested. This is in Q&A right now, and this is what the next blockchain explorer is going to look like. And I think that pretty much rounds out everything.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex.
No problem.
Yeah, so I want to thank everyone for taking the time today. And Alex, we have a question. On the
Sure.
dashboard, is it possible to check the VWAP price of certain tokens?
Which dashboard?
Um,
Yeah, let me if we're speaking about the front end, so I'm here now. So the average price that's displayed under positions is in fact a volume weighted average price. So that would be here. Does that answer the person's question?
I believe so. Can you follow up with that if there's any question there? Also, as everyone knows in the chat, if there's anyone has any questions, please ask away.
And while we're here, by the way, just really quickly, just wanted to click on this help tab. This is an interactive help tab. Anyone, while they're trading, while they have this system up, can actually type terms in here, like for instance, account, and it'll take, these are all the top results, and then you can actually go ahead and send an email, ask for contact. Once we go live, this will also have live help, so you'll be able to actually interact with a customer service representative, and they'll be able to answer questions on the fly, give you account help, potentially even enter orders if, for instance, you're locked out or whatever. Any other questions, Aaron?
Nothing's come through yet, but as you guys can tell, we've actually spent a lot of time and we've really considered all the potential regulatory implications and the real ability to build a market that has real integrity. As everyone in this meeting knows, is basically what we're doing is we're really creating Wall Street for digital assets. And this is our exchange component. And this is really the core that ties into, through the fixed engine to the clearing firm, which will really be an upgrade from the existing market infrastructure given our distributed ledger technology based platform. So we're very excited about this, and we've been demonstrating for people like yourselves and also regulators, and we've had a very positive response because obviously we're doing it the right way, which is really important, and it's the only way really for, as an industry, for everyone to move forward. So we're very excited, and we're looking forward to our approvals in hopefully sometime early 2020. That's basically it, guys. Again, we all appreciate your time. I want to thank Alex for going through a complicated system and really explaining it in depth and doing an excellent job. And if anyone has any follow-up questions, please contact me.
And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for spending an hour of your time and watching that demo. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
And have a great night or a great morning.
Exactly. Okay. Goodbye.